I have been asked to conduct this conversation in English, so if someone has a problem with that, you should borrow some earphones for the translation. But if it's okay with you, we should go on with English. Just for David O'Reilly, because you're a guest. And we were going to talk about innovation in the gaming sector. But first of all, I have a couple of generalistic questions. And so I will ask Mr. Giannarakis, if it's okay. Is gaming and gambling the same thing? Because we always mix that. When I write an article about gaming, I go to gambling. When I go to gambling, I write about gaming. Is the same thing, gaming and gambling?
Surely no. Definitely no. Though also in the Greek language we're talking about παιχνίδια, τυχερά παιχνίδια και άλλα τα παιχνίδια, games. Actually, in the international market, there are two different segments, the gambling industry and the gaming industry, and of course there are areas where they conjoin. Areas where the gaming industry gambles and the gambling industry plays games. From our side, we focus on the gaming industry in terms of the non-gambling, the non-betting games, but surely we see a lot of innovation coming from both sides of the industry.
Okay, talking about innovation, is it true, and I'm going to Mr. Karadis, is it true that Greece exports mobile applications double as much in money terms of oil exports? Is it true?
It's absolutely true. It is something that not many people know, and that's the problem. That although when we talk about Greece, we associate the name Greece with olive oil, cheese, and traditional products, these exports are lagging behind the exports of the innovation and technology sector. And this is a new face of Greece, a fresh new face of Greece, an optimistic face of Greece, which we at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs want to promote abroad.
So that's what you do. That's part of the job that you do daily. You promote businesses.
Yes, at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, apart from preventing wars, we also want to promote exports, and this is what specifically the economic and commercial diplomats do.
We'll get back to you about what you do really. Now, David O'Reilly, what is innovation in the gaming sector?
Don't know about that. I was going to say I think innovation actually has been limited in the gambling sector in the last decade. If you look at, for example, sports betting, which is really where I come from, sports betting has seen a great increase in in-play betting, so during the game, during the match, and it's seen a big increase in the number of markets that people can bet on. So instead of being able to bet on who's going to win the match and who's going to score the first goal, you can now bet on any number of 50 or 60 or 70 different things with most sports betting operators. How many corners will there be? What will be the time of the first goal? Will there be any yellow cards or red cards, et cetera, et cetera. That really is an expansion of the offering, but it's not really innovation. So an increase in more of the same really is what we've seen, I think, in sports betting. And I think you could probably say the same about lotteries. Lotteries used to be once a week, a single draw. Now you've got a Euro Millions draw, you've got a local draw, you've got a midweek draw, you've got a bonus ball, you've got more really content of the same, but you haven't really seen big innovation, I think, in those areas, certainly in the last 10 years.
And now, this is the fool of the company here, Mr. Livas. You have created a Greek business in Greece to develop technology for gaming. Greece development, creation in Greece.
This started 2 years ago. So we opened it in the UK, we're a UK company. We do development through services we get from Greece. It started 2 years ago, and we thought that we will have, as an experiment, 20 to 30 developers to develop our products, to develop services and products for our customers. Betfair, Ladbrokes, Coral, many other ones, William Hill, and also do support for our customers. And it went quite well. It went quite well, and within these 2 years, there are over 120 engineers working here in Greece and providing services to us in UK.
So you don't actually sell products, you develop.
Yeah, we get services from Greece to develop our products, to do support for our customers, and to develop services for our customers.
So, Mr. Giannarakis, what does technology has to do with innovation in the gaming sector?
In the past years, we have seen technology, and especially the technologies of the internet, the computer technologies and the wireless and mobile technologies, transform all the sectors that had to do with human communication. And of course, gaming and also gambling is two areas where humans communicate, they exchange information, they play, etc. So technology has changed everything here. Especially internet has given a new dimension in the near real-time association of all events with the players. Also, it has changed the global dimension where two people can play together even if they're in two different continents, in two different time zones, even if one is seeing the light and the other is in nighttime. But mainly, technology has created the ability to bring virtual worlds in gaming.
Virtual
worlds, virtual worlds. Worlds that do not exist, and they exist via the machine, via the computers. We have seen that most of the games now, they are based on creating virtual reality around the player and creating, bringing up, giving new things to see, to touch, to feel, and sometimes
to experience.
Some they speak that we could also feel new smells via the games. This was a new dimension which changed everything and made this an enormous industry that now it's more than 80 billion globally. 80 billion euros. Yes. The gaming industry, not including the gambling industry, which is about 300 billion, if I'm correct. But we're talking about an industry that, in terms of expenses and investments, is more or less like what the movie industry was 10 or 20 years ago. And nowadays, we're talking about a production of a new video game. We're talking about much more money invested than the production of a high-caliber movie.
Really?
We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars per game. Also, we're talking about innovation, not only in technology, but more and more technology in the way people react together. Now we have a new kind of massive games where thousands or millions of players all around the world coexist, play together, and create new worlds, new environments, new characters, and they share them.
Wait a minute. David, is that possible? Is it possible really to have all these hundreds of players together in a gambling situation?
It is possible, yeah. I mean, I think George was talking probably more about gaming in the context of something like Warcraft, where
he talks about gaming, you talk about gambling.
I'm talking probably more gambling specific. Yes. You can have hundreds of people. You can have a poker room, a poker tournament with thousands of players playing against each other effectively.
But with all the different regulations and limitations for every country, is it possible?
It's getting more difficult because lots of territories are closing their their borders effectively online, Greece being potentially one example. But there are poker companies. There's one particular one called PokerStars, which lots of people will be aware of. If you go onto PokerStars now, and you see, it tells you how many players are on the platform at any one time. There will probably be 150,000 people on there right now, on an afternoon, on a Thursday afternoon. On a Sunday night, there'll be 250,000 people on the platform. They won't all be playing against each other, but they'll be playing different games. And the big tournaments, the headline tournaments, will have potentially 10,000 players.
So what are the factors of innovation in the gaming industry?
I think, again, George just mentioned, the internet has enabled communication in a way that simply didn't exist, and that's the single biggest factor. You can get a guy, again, using the poker example, a guy playing at 2 in the morning against a guy playing at 2 in the afternoon at the same time. The internet and also the channels, the electronic channels of communication. Mobile is the obvious example. Most sports betting taking place, certainly in the UK now, it's on a mobile device. And that's increasing, rapidly every year. Every single company, even the companies performing badly, always go on the front foot with their mobile numbers because they look pretty good. If you can say 50% increase in mobile customers in this quarter,
you do well.
You go on the front foot with that because the rest of it doesn't look so good.
Exactly.
But mobile is, everyone is doing well relative, comparative to their businesses generally on mobile, and most gambling is taking place on mobile devices, and that's only going to increase.
I see. Now, do you really see investment potential in this country, in this sector, Mr. Linas?
I don't know. However, what I see through what happened with our company the last 2 years and the service.
So you're a 2-year company, right?
No, we are over 15-year company. We are
2 years operating in Greece.
But for the last 2 years, we get services from Greece, and we have over 120 engineers now.
How many?
Over 127 right now, if we want the number
127
today. Yes,
engineers.
And we will have
Greece
much more,
working
and we will
here.
have much more in the next few months because things go quite well. And what goes quite well is that we can get good quality of service, and we can also get service from people that eventually can stay in this market for longer. What we see in other markets, for example, especially in the UK, is that people change jobs much more often. Where in Athens, this is not the case. A software developer, for example, in Athens changes a job every 5 years, according to statistics, where in UK every year. So this gives us the opportunity to have people that learn better the domain, that better processes, systems, and they can give better services in time. I say this just to know that it's not just the price factor, that getting a software engineer here from Athens is not that expensive as getting an engineer from UK. This is not the only factor. There are many other factors that make it good to have a combination of people both in UK and Athens. Now, yes, please.
No.
Regarding getting services from here, yes, we can, but not because it is Greece or Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey. We do get services because it works. The people that do it right.
I see.
So the difference is not the country, is that the people, the specific people that do it right.
I see.
And yes, if we do it right, I think that...
So, Mr. Karadžis, do you have a lot of people from Greece, businessmen, who want to export their services and products to countries abroad in this technology gaming sector?
Specifically in the gaming sector, I do not have a statistic, but of course, in general, all the, let's say, the questions that have been asked at the embassies and in the offices of economic and commercial affairs at the embassies abroad, in the last 3 years have more than doubled. So I expect that the same percentage applies to gaming and gambling, and mostly gaming, not gambling, gaming and technology in general questions to promote their innovation abroad. through the channels, through the network that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has abroad.
Now, you've been working, for example, in the past in Serbia, right after the war.
Yes.
That means it's a period where gaming and gambling goes rocket high, right? Is that right?
Especially in Serbia, I think gambling and gaming is high all the time.
Is it?
Yes, people like to game and to gamble.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was there right after the bombings of Belgrade, although the situation was bad,
mm-hmm.
to say the least, there were a lot of, especially for sport betting, a lot of outlets for sports betting. And I assume that they were privately owned, and there was no state gambling.
Okay.
May I add?
Yes, please.
May I add something? Talking about the exports of Greek technology products, what Mr. Karadis said about the Greek virgin olive oil actually is something that came from our sector, the mobile applications industry, where our association, the Hellenic Association of Mobile Application Companies, now has about 80 companies that mainly they export their product and services in the international market. They have about $1 billion, their total turnover is about €1 billion per year, and they have presence in 40 countries with purely Greek innovative products in the mobile sector. Of course, the mobile sector is something that moves very fast, very quickly. It has a tremendous global market, and there we see many opportunities in the gambling also industry, and of course, all the areas where services between communicating people could bring new projects and new.
I see. Mr. Livas, what are the major difficulties that you're facing as a company working in Greece today?
Actually, we're not a company, a Greek company, right? But we're getting services from Greek companies. The difficulties that these companies face that provide us these services are the regulations, actually. And the difficulty we face is that the stability of the regulation. So if we knew that there was a stable regulation that would allow us to invest in certain dimensions and aspects by implementing our processes and our production lines, would make us feel much safer. For example, in UK, the regulations for companies, for the operation of the companies hasn't changed for the last 300 years. Here, we do not know what the regulation will be next year. So this is a factor that makes it difficult. For example, our consultants tell us that there is some kind of risk when we try to actually get services for long term and we invest for that from the specific.
David?
The value given to clear, what they call clean revenue. So again, if you're doing something different, innovative, in a new market or with a new product, then in this sector generally you've got a hurdle in front of you.
I see. So there is uncertainty in the sector is one problem. We can just put it on the shelf, and I don't know how this can be resolved now as an issue.
I mean, it's probably really relevant to the panel that was being that was on before. It was talking about EU regulation and the lack of cohesion, the way it changes by the minute, and the goalposts keep moving.
Mr. Giannarakis, you talked about an 80 billion euros market. Now, what are the potentials for Greek companies in this huge market?
If we look this market as having our feet on the Greek earth.
And we're talking about the gaming again, not the gambling.
Okay. It's a bit difficult because if you look around Greece is a small market itself. Greece is considered part of the Central Eastern European market, which is more or less about less than $500 million from the 80 billion total market. So
less than $500,000.
Yeah, $500 million. So it's very, very small. But if you try to see around the international market, and you see that the international market, especially in gaming, it's a market that has not the same barriers cultural, linguistic, legal, as other markets, you can see great opportunities. So there are Greek companies that have seen those opportunities and they expand abroad. If you expand it internationally, you have a huge potential. If you have good ideas, you have good teams that could bring those ideas into certain concrete products and good services, and there's no limit.
So your association consists of 80 companies, more or less?
Yep.
Huh?
80 companies. Of course, they don't do gaming. Very few of them are specialized in gaming, but most of them, they have a very good presence in all the areas of the mobile market, so they're very close to gaming. I have to say that there is, in the past year, there was a Greek gaming cluster formed from 25 companies that they focus on all the areas of the gaming industry, and they're doing quite well.
Yes, Mr. Lewis?
I also feel that we should start operating and feel less Greeks when we do business. What I mean by that, I'm proud that I'm Greek, is great. However, that we do have the opportunity through technology, internet, relationships now, to look in a market of the world, not in the market of Greece. So it is not important that something comes from Greece. So when we do it, it's good if we feel as citizens of this world, as innovators of this world. What we need, though, is the regulations of the country to help us doing that. However, we don't do it as Greeks. We do it as professionals, that we try to cover needs of the market. And yes, all of these mobile applications or what we do to give services to the specific companies, it has to do with us getting better in providing these services, not that we're in a specific area.
So David, I guess OpenBet is a company that exploits this international environment. And you have been doing it. I mean, they envy you, they are jealous of you.
Well, he's OpenBet. I'm Colossus Bets.
Colossus Bets, yes.
I mean, we're a new company. We've only been launched 12 months.
Only.
But what we are trying to do is we are trying to merge two existing gambling types, if you like. So pools betting, which has been very popular in the UK historically, football pools betting. And then the National Lottery came into the UK in '94 and decimated pools betting, because if you wanted to win £1 million plus prize for a small spend, the National Lottery was what you ended up going towards. We've looked at the lottery and pools betting, and we said, actually, you should have a product that combines the best of both, which is using skill. People like to watch football. They don't want to watch balls falling out of a drum. It's boring. It's basically boring. So using football pool concept and adding lottery-sized prizes and combining the two, and that's effectively what we've done with a feature which enables people to take a profit at any point during the game if their ticket's still live. So that's called fractional cash-in, and it's a unique feature that effectively allows people to say, well, I've got the first 3 correct. Yeah. My ticket's now worth £5,000. I'm going to take some or all of that money off the table.
Okay. Give us some figures. I mean, you're a company that is being Colossus Bet, that is working for a year or more.
Yeah.
What are the figures we're talking about?
The figures we're
the public figures.
Sure, no, I mean they're not too sensitive. It's a private company, but we have a B2C product, which is our own customers directly, and we also have a B2B portfolio whereby other operators take our products and offer them to their customers. We've processed about 1.6 million bets since August last year is when we went live. Our headline bet is the £10 million Colossus, which is we call it the world's biggest bet. It's effectively the biggest sports bet in the world. We've got a decent Twitter following. If you look at those kind of measures, social media is big for us because it's effectively free. As a small startup company, Twitter and Facebook, you can pay for certain services on them, but you can generate a viral element to a small business quite quickly if the product is engaging. So, yeah, it's going pretty well so far.
Again, technology. I mean, you talk about innovation, you talk about technology, but talking from the consumer's side of view, point of view, we don't see much of innovation. I mean, the consumer gives some money, he expects some money in return. Is that true? Is it true that for the consumer, things have not changed that rapidly as it has changed for you, the creators? Yes, sir.
Actually, things I think will change. The new products we'll see in the near future will copy what Amazon and other industries do, and we'll see that we are interested in understanding the customer better. Mm-hmm. We want to know the customer, and want to know that the very same customer is the one that is in the retail store or online or elsewhere, and also the habits of the customer. And now we do prepare, companies do prepare systems in this direction where a customer, the very same person, when we go to the store, to a retail store, or through the internet, or elsewhere, will have the very same profile, the very same login ID, and we will remember what the person did, what the person likes, what does not like, and we can provide a better service to the person.
I see. The same for you, David?
Yeah, I think all those kind of customer metrics, the ability to understand your customer, know what they want, know what they don't want, know the time to push the promotional message to them, know the device to use to push that message, is all getting very sophisticated. I think that the biggest companies in the sector, if you take Bet365, Paddy Power, those kind of companies, they spend a lot of time and money on getting that kind of thing right. And if you look at where they've come from when the traditional sports betting companies went online, and if you look at the UK in the late 1990s, there was Ladbrokes and William Hill and the big traditional land-based companies. They effectively put their land-based offering online, and that was really it. It was, you can back this football team in the shop, or you can back it online. There was no real sophistication to how they targeted their customer and retained their customer online, and that's changed radically, and that's going to keep changing.
Let me change the subject for a minute, please, because I want to go back to Mr. Karadžis. Do we really have commercial embassies, commercial foreign affairs in Greece? I mean, does it work?
Should I take that as an insult?
Yes, yes, please.
No, I'm joking. Of course, there are 150 economic and commercial diplomats within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We are present in 60 countries with almost 55, 56 offices of commercial and economic affairs, which are part of the embassy. And although there are difficulties in doing our job, this is not only a case for us, it's in the whole Greek public sector. I think that the data that I gave you, that the requests have doubled within the past 3 years, shows not only that the Greeks want to export more, it shows also the confidence that the exporter has to the network of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs abroad. Of course, we also, at the ministry, not only try to promote abroad, we also try to inform people inside Greece, and we also try to inform the other diplomatic missions in Athens and Greece, what is happening in various sectors. And especially, as Mr. Giannarakis knows, that we have talked at the embassy, at the ministry before, what happens in the innovation sector. And we did this, an event in July, which we invited the ambassadors and economic and commercial councils from other embassies at the ministry to present to them let's say, projects of innovation from Greek universities and research centers. And it was a great success. As a matter of fact, we couldn't accommodate all the, let's say, the products from the universities. And some universities were sour at us because they couldn't present what they did, but we had a limited part of limited time. We want to do this again. And this shows also that there is a plethora of things to present to the world, a plethora of innovation, of Greek innovation. And we have closely cooperated with clusters here in Greece, with Mr. Giannarakis, was one of the first people that we talked to at the ministry. and we want this to continue. And as I said at the beginning, people know about Greek olive oil. They don't know, though, that the exports of Greek innovation is more than double of that. And we want to present that to the world.
So I suppose that you're more useful in countries where the legal framework is quite complicated, or not, the market is not so effective.
I want to think that we're useful everywhere, but especially in countries where, let's say, state intervention is more heavy than others. My experience, most of my professional experience is from the Balkans, especially when after the socialism collapsed there. And I saw how useful the economic and commercial offices and the embassies were for Greek exporters to help them in an environment which was difficult for them. It was not a free market.
I see.
And of course now these countries, most of them have normalized their legislation. But back then in the 90s, the early 90s, it was a difficult situation. And I want to think that, and I'm sure that the embassies played a big role in facilitating exporters. And not only of traditional products, but we want in the future to facilitate innovation too.
If anybody from the audience would like to pose a question, please feel free now. This is the time. But David, again, as the gaming industry is concerned, I think you have that everywhere. The legal framework, it is complicated everywhere, isn't it?
It's a good industry for lawyers, for sure. It's very complicated. In places where there is no regulation, you know it's coming. So if we look at, again, I think this morning, it was mentioned that in Europe, it's got tighter and more regulated, and operators have gone to Asia to try and compensate. I think inevitably regulation will come in Asia. It's a bit of a Wild West, to be honest, in Asia, in certain parts at the moment, in terms of people can effectively take business from Asia without asking too many questions. I think that's going to get more difficult as those territories in Asia realize they're effectively leaking tax revenues to non-Asian businesses.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
So I think, you know, if you're going to be a lawyer, it's not a bad place to be a lawyer in the gaming sector.
Anybody would like to add a final comment before we conclude? Thank you. So, from what I see, if nobody else wants to ask a question, we have two main problems. Number one is that the uncertainty in the industry, right? You don't know what is coming and where it's coming from the very next day. The second thing is the role of technology. Technology changes fast. That requires huge investment in creating new products. And I don't know if there is a return on investment on this sector. Is there? Yeah?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yes?
The investments, I shouldn't say they are huge, but they must be consistent. Because actually, the most important investment when you're talking about technology and innovation is not investment in machines and buildings, investment in human minds, in human teams that create innovation, new products, new services, and they have the knowledge and the know-how how to evolve. And because things are changing rapidly, you have to be consistent to innovation. You have to find the new area where to innovate, the new product that you should create, the new feature that you should add to the previous product. And to do this, you have to invest in communicating with your customers, because if you don't have a continuous communication and interaction with your customers, you don't know where you are going, what they think, and if they're going to pay for your next venture.
Exactly. Do you invest a lot in advertising?
I mean, as a small company, we've got to, watch what we spend on different things. But yeah, you have to invest in advertising and marketing, and you've got
apart from social media, apart from Twitter and Facebook, do you also invest?
Yeah, I mean, you can take print media, you can do SEO type stuff on Google and AdWords and things. We've got an ambassador, Michael Owen, the footballer, quite a well-known ex-England footballer. He's our brand ambassador. So there's lots of ways that we do and have to invest in media and marketing to maintain what we're doing.
So this is a growing industry, that's for sure, right? Nobody argues with that. Is it a safe industry?
Safe in terms?
Safe in visible terms. I mean, if you can...
Actually, if we ask if it is safe in terms that the need is there, the gambling is there for hundreds, thousands of years, right? So safe in terms that the need is there, and we try to cover this need, right?
Yeah. Why do you laugh, Mr. Giannakis?
No, yes, he said that it's an industry where humans they have seen they gamble from the early years of the man. And I think that there are not more than 2 or 3 industries that have the same. That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
So, again, back, what kind of innovations should we expect in the future? What kind of new things are coming in the industry?
I think it will, to some extent, be driven by the channels. So we go back to mobile again. The channel of communication. That's innovation. That's of broader application, but has had a big impact on the gambling sector. I think if you look specifically at the gambling sector, one area that has had some innovation in the last few years has been fantasy sports and fantasy leagues. So particularly in the US, where betting is completely illegal, although it still happens, but it's completely illegal. Fantasy sports and fantasy leagues where players pick their team and they draft in new players and they change the players and they're in a league and they may win a cash prize at the end of the week or the month. That's come from nowhere in the last 3 or 4 years to be a big business in the US, probably because people are not allowed to bet on what they really want to bet on.
Would you be kind enough to explain to me what is going on in the United States? I mean, there is no bar, I have been in the United States, where betting doesn't take place. So how is this illegal? They have made the most stupid, boring sports interesting by gambling on them. That's the only way you can suffer watching some of these sports.
You could say the same about some football matches as well.
Yeah,
in the UK,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
I was watching last night one of these matches. Yes.
It's another panel session in itself, or you could spend all day talking about the US. But in very simple terms, for lots of reasons, for moral reasons, for religious reasons, for protectionist reasons, on the land-based casinos, sports betting is illegal, full stop. Poker is illegal online in most places. There is state-by-state movement that may change that over the coming years, but it's very, very slow. Lots of the big UK companies and the European companies and the big established companies have a presence in the US just in case it opens up, because if it does, they don't want to miss out. So they're forming partnerships with some of the big Vegas casinos, for example, so that if sports betting online or any kind of online gambling properly opens up, they'll be in a position where they can take advantage. But again, it's very slow moving. I think we heard earlier on that there may be some harmonization or a paper produced by the EU Commission 5 years from now or 6 years from now, proposing some kind of framework. The US could be the same timeline, and we'll all be long gone by then.
But is this logical in the era of internet, where borders are no more existing, that we have different regulations from area to area, and then you have the undiscovered, the El Dorado in the Asia world?
It's not logical at all, really, is it? I mean, it's, I would say this, but why is sports betting illegal completely anyway? I mean, as you say, in every single bar you go into, you can place a bet, and somebody's making a profit from that, and it's not regulated. The government gets no tax. The consumer is not protected. It makes no sense that it's illegal. But it's, there's very powerful vested interests. I forgot to mention the sports. Yeah. The sports are very powerful in the US, the NBA and the NFL. Their consent is probably going to, or their support is probably necessary as well for things to change radically.
From what he said, what David said, mobile applications are the next future. I mean, the future to be. Do you see that in your association? Do you see that?
Yeah, I think everybody sees it, that now we have this machine every day, 24 hours a day near us. Sometimes it rings in the night. We use many applications. Everything now is an application. Our stopwatch is an application. Our credit card will be an application in a couple of months in Greece also. So everything is an app, a mobile app, either in an iPad, an iPhone, or even in a smart TV. So we're entering an era where everything will be an application. This maybe will bring more revenues to our companies, but what we see is that it will create many more possibilities for the people around us, so it will create value.
Yep.
And how we will exploit this value is something that we have to address in the future. The problem is that, not the problem, one issue is that we have a new concept, which is the most innovative, to my opinion, idea that came from the gaming industry in the past years, is the concept of gamification. Gamification. Ελληνικά, we call it παιχνιδοποίηση. It's the concept of making everything a game.
Okay.
Many large banks internationally, they try to find ways to make their account processing from the user side a game.
I see.
To use game features which are engaging, which are funny, which they take out the sense of seriousness that usually the bank web page has. And I see the same coming in the gambling industry. I see the same coming in the health industry,
yes,
where they try to engage the patient and the doctor via gaming concepts. So this is a great opportunity for all the people that work in this industry to use this technology and their know-how, not only in the gaming per se, but also in other industries via the new coming apps.
How about employment in your sector? Is there a growing number of employment, or is it more technology and less employment?
We currently we employ about in our 80 companies employ about 5,000 people. So they're not labor-intensive companies. Huh? Mm-hmm. More than 1,000 of them are very highly qualified scientists and engineers with academic accreditation, research experience, etc. Hopefully, we will follow the path as our president announced a couple of months ago, that his company had a new employee every week of the past year.
Really?
They hired a new employee every week. And there are some other companies from outside that follow this path. Hopefully, we are in this direction. But I think that Greece needs more opportunities in those sectors that could be created by bringing up the knowledge that exists in the new minds, in the young people mm-hmm. that come from the university. They have a lot of knowledge, and a lot of knowledge not only from their university years, but also from gathering experience and knowledge from the internet all around the world. Many of them are self-taught, and this is the most important and the most valuable asset we have for the future.
Yes.
Actually, the European market needs more engineers. And now we can use engineers even if they live elsewhere. I mean, mm-hmm. Where a person lives is dependent on where the person can work today, and it's getting better and better. And when I say when the person lives is different from the place can work, is not that is that easy, but it is doable, it's not difficult, it is getting better and better every day. And what is an opportunity for Greece is that if our professionals learn to work that way, then they get the freedom of the borders because they can live here but work in the world.
I see. And I guess all the money lies, more money lies in the gray areas rather than the legal areas.
Yeah, I mean, I think the statistic in Asia, for example, is something along the lines of 70 billion of legal sports betting and 300 billion total market. So, you know, I think, and those numbers generally are much, much bigger than the European market.
Yep.
So the grey market is more fraught, it's more uncertain, but there's bigger opportunities there, and there's more money being made there for sure.
So if we try to legalize part of this grey money, we create a much bigger industry with much more employment opportunities and much more technology opportunities.
Sure, I think that the challenge there is who is we? Because, you know, if we look again at Asia, will the Asian or the US, you know, the reason that the European companies are partnering with the US companies is because they probably believe if that market does open up, it will be done for the benefit of local companies. And if you want to be involved in that market, you will need to have the support and have an alliance with a locally established operator who, because of the way of politics and the way the world works, will have access to government and regulators in a way that you as an outsider will not have. The same will apply in Asia.
And I think from these wise words here, we have the conclusion of today's meeting. Thank you for attending. Thank you, sir.